All right, I'm just doing this video as a public service and to get it on the record, but it's a breaking news story coming out today out of Matt Gaetz' office, who's a member of Congress. FEMA whistleblowers claim that the agency misused funds during the Hurricane Helene crisis, held back pre-disaster assistance, and left first responders and service members stranded in hotels without deployment orders. We're just going to read this letter from Matt Gaetz. It's to Alejandro Mayorkas, who is the Secretary of Homeland Security. Last I checked, Homeland Security costs American tax cattle members over $61 billion a year. Part of the offshoot of Homeland Security is the TSA, which tramples on your Fourth Amendment rights every single day in every single major airport around the country. Says, Dear Secretary Mayorkas, yesterday you stated that the Federal Emergency Management Agency, that's FEMA, which is part of your department, quote, does not have enough funds to make it through the hurricane season. This news comes after FEMA has spent hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars on migrants due to border czar Kamala Harris's open border instead of prioritizing funding for Americans impacted by disasters. At this point right here, I would ask the question, why the heck are people even bothering to pay the government taxes at this point? And by the way, you're not really paying taxes. They're extorting you. They're holding a government gun over you, saying if you don't give us a percentage of your income, you will be caged. Gaetz says, my office has been in contact with whistleblowers in numerous emergency management functions at the federal, state, and local levels, and they all point to the same critical mismanagement issues. FEMA has wasted taxpayer funds. Imagine how shocked I was when I heard that. A government agency mismanaging and misappropriating taxpayer funds. Go figure. Misappropriated funds and left other federal, state, and local responders without deployment orders on the ground. As reported and further confirmed by my office, hundreds, if not thousands, of service members were deployed by the Department of Defense to North Carolina and have sat idle waiting for FEMA. We have confirmed FEMA employees deployed on the clock, awaiting orders in hotels. I want to know how much they're spending on that. I want to know exactly, specifically, where every single dollar went. Because if you have mismanagement of funds, then you need to replace the manager. FEMA pre-disaster aid was withheld, exacerbating the emergency. It is also public that NGOs, that's non-government organizations, have purchased airline tickets for migrants through the use of FEMA funds. The aftermath of Hurricane Helene is a major disaster, and your waste and unpreparedness are leaving Americans in distress, unable to access food, water, or medicine, and expecting help with none coming. Please provide the answers to the following questions to my office by October 11th, 2024. I wonder how many people will die in between now and then. Number one, what policies and regulations of the Department of Homeland Security and FEMA prevent emergency funds from being wasted on illegal immigrants, including what conditions are placed on grantees of the agency? And number two, of FEMA's total budget for fiscal year 2024, what portion of funds can be guaranteed to have been spent solely on American citizens, and what portion of funds was or may have been spent on non-citizens? And number three, in fiscal year 2024, what portion of funds in the disaster relief fund have been spent on non-disaster relief programs, such as providing services to illegal aliens or providing routine training to FEMA employees authorized out of general appropriations? Sincerely, Matt Gaetz. And I wanted to share with you a post on X by a guy named Ryan Tyre. He says, if you're wondering why citizens are being turned away that are coming to help North Carolina and Tennessee, you'll want to hear my experience as someone who's been doing this as a private citizen for almost a decade. Here are a couple pictures of Ryan and the people who work for him and the goods that they actually deliver to hurting, starving, desperate people. He says, I was able to get in and out of Asheville. We brought food, water, fuel and other supplies, as well as helping people affected by the floods, but there are reasons why they are not allowing outside help. I cannot confirm the reasons why in North Carolina, but I can tell you the reasons in other storms I've worked. I'll explain below. Let me share with you the first disaster area that I finally realized that this was all about money. In the Florida Keys with Hurricane Irma, after Texas got hit with Harvey, we finished our efforts in Texas and were the first citizen team to make it to Key Largo. The federal agencies had US 1 shut down just south of Key Largo and wouldn't let anyone in or out, even though the road was okay to pass. We explained to them that we had boats, jet skis, food, water, chainsaws, and fuel to bring to these people. They didn't care and wouldn't let us in. Can you imagine yourself in this desperate situation and then finding out later that the aid you could have had that would have helped you right there in that moment was turned away by the federal authorities who took an oath to serve and protect you? It was night by that point, and you rarely saw the lights of vehicles in the distance on the individual keys, meaning the emergency response teams from FEMA weren't even working it. It was all quiet. We decided that we would go in anyways. We filled up the boats and jet skis with all that we could reasonably carry and went by water around all their BS blockades and around their law enforcement presence on the water. It was 87 miles by water to get to our first stop, Cudjoe Key and Sugarloaf Key. When we arrived there, we were greeted by a homeowner, for privacy I won't name him, though we have video, who was elated to see us and all the supplies we brought. His house was in shambles. We started offloading supplies on the shoreline and helping to get them into what was left of his house. During that process, he explained to us that FEMA had set up a command center at a local high school on the island, but that they weren't doing anything to help the residents, not even bringing them water. Instead, he explained that they were driving around using loudspeakers, telling people to stay in their homes. They weren't even helping the homeowners with supplies. I was skeptical at first while he was telling me about all this, but then he said something that broke my heart. He told us that the people of the Keys were all in despair because they had just seen weeks before the overwhelming support for Texas with Hurricane Harvey by the citizens of this country. He and his neighbors on all of the Keys felt like Americans had forgotten about them completely because at this point, 5 days after landfall, all they had seen was FEMA and they were of no help. The residents were cut off from the outside world, no cellular, no internet, no way to contact anyone or hear any of the efforts to try to help them. The only communication they had was from a local radio station on Sugarloaf Key that was broadcasting on AM to the surrounding keys. The man, after hearing that there were citizens trying to bring them help, but being refused entry by federal law enforcement, was visibly upset. He and his neighbors really thought the country had abandoned them. He insisted that we get into this waterlogged truck and that he would take us to that radio station so that we could go live on the air to tell the citizens trapped in the Keys that we, the American people, were there to help and that the government was trying to stop our efforts. And that was exactly what we did. After that, we were determined to help as many people as we could, but we were met with red tape throughout the whole process and time we were in the Keys. We finally were able to talk to some authorities to let us down to the Faro Blanco Resort in Marathon toward the end of Boot Key. This was the same hotel where state and local authorities were staging their personnel, and they were happy to see us. I was able to coordinate several trucks full of supplies to be brought down to EOC in Marathon. I was privy to the EOC meeting, but was informed in that meeting that all the semi-trucks full of food, water, and hygiene supplies were to be turned around and not allowed to be offloaded for distribution by the EOC. The reason they gave us was that these donations were not from companies on their preferred vendors list and that they would not accept them or give them to residents of the Keys impacted by the storm. It was at that point I realized this is all about money. These preferred vendors are getting part of the money being released by the state and federal government for each disaster. In turn, some of the vendors make it on the list because a friend gets them on the list, and in return for getting ridiculously outlandish amounts of compensation for the services they render, they give kickbacks. So accepting outside donations, even though they're on location and can help people now, they would rather let people suffer so they can get their kickbacks. This meeting solidified my resolve to help these people, regardless of what the greedy officials wanted. We were going to feed the lower keys that were being neglected. I diverted all semi-trucks to Faro Blanco Resort and Marathon and filled the entire first floor with pallets upon pallets of food, water, and essential supplies, and created a food pantry for residents to come and get anything and however much they needed. From local state troopers to the homeless, all were given wheelbarrows of free reign to get anything they needed. We also delivered supplies down to Big Pine Key. We helped establish the tent city on Big Pine Key. Big companies like Tito's Vodka and Wheelin just kept bringing trucks full of everything that was needed. When FEMA finally started handing out boxes of canned goods, limited to one per household, we were filling cars full of food and supplies for people and pets. There's so much more to the story in the Keys and further from there in other storms we worked. The common theme, though, is that the federal government always tries to keep citizens from helping, and local authorities, the ones that live and work in the area, are always happy to have outside help. I call out to Elon Musk and anyone else who can monetarily help people like myself and those that work with me who have the knowledge and the will to help those devastated by these disasters. Help us sidestep the red tape and get the people the relief they need. And let me just add, get it now, not later. We are willing and we are many and we are ready. And again, here's the guys, there's the boats they fill, there's the stuff that they provide to the people. There's just pallets and pallets full of food that are given by people who care about other people. Elon Musk actually responded to this. Wow, sounds like serious government reform is needed. I really trust that you are the man for the job, brother. Sincerely. Health Ranger says, wow, absolutely shocking, highly disturbing. Thanks for the detailed post. So get this out to as many people as you can. The government, if the government is not there to help, what the hell do we need them for? Not only are they not there to help, they're there to hinder, it looks like, people who want to help other people. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the global thought police. I'll give you the link to this in the description so you can reach out to Ryan Tyler yourself. Subscribe to the channel. You know, more importantly, let's just be human beings and let's help other human beings. And one of the ways we change our world is through massive non-compliance. I will see you in the next video.